Brendan Nottle from the Salvation Army. Good to talk to you again, Brendan. Just tell us the latest you're getting from people seeking help. We've talked before about we're increasingly seeing the working poor. Is there any sense that this crisis is plateauing or getting any better, or is the bite getting harder?
Well, sadly, Chris, I've been doing this work with the Salvation Army for 33 years and I've never seen it as bad as it is now, and I can't see light at the end of the tunnel. So we're actually hearing stories regularly now where parents are sitting down to have a meal with their kids and the parent or parents don't eat with their kids, and kids ask mum and dad, when are you going to eat? And they'll say, oh, we'll eat later, but they actually don't eat later because they don't have enough food for them. And we're seeing things like that all the time. We're seeing new faces coming into our centres, and there have often been people that have been donors to organisations like ours. Now they're reaching out for help. And one of the tragic things, Chris, is we're seeing mums come in with their kids, little kids, into homelessness services, but they're not homeless. So their partner is off working. They're doing everything they possibly can to try and make ends meet, and they simply can't.
So, obviously that it just shouldn't happen in this country. Of course, if you've got parents there trying to care for children, just trying to put food on their plate, it should be impossible that they can't afford to do that. Where is the money going? Is it the accommodation cost, whether it be a mortgage or rental, or is it electricity bills and utilities? Where are the real pinch points that you're seeing people struggling to pay the bills?
Well, there's economic shock right across the board, Chris. So people are trying to manage their mortgages. Interest rates have gone up. That's really, really bitten hard. Then you've got often those mortgage increase or interest rate increases have been passed on to rent payers. So now you've got Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne have three of the most expensive housing rental markets in the world. So you've got that overlay really crunching people right across the nation. Then you've got food costs going up, you've got energy costs going up. And one of the things that really hits me hard is when we have people whose health is compromised saying, I can't switch the heating on this winter, I can't switch the air conditioning on this summer because I simply can't afford it. And the reality is it's not them being uncomfortable, it's potentially a life and death situation for them. And the other thing we see, Chris, is this cumulative effect. It's not just people not being able to afford cost of living expenses. It actually impacts their mental health. So it causes stress, it causes anxiety, it causes depression, and then it impacts relationships. So within the home, we're seeing people turning on each other because they're just not coping. So there's all these cumulative effects that are impacting people's lives right across the whole nation.
Now, and what sort of situations are we talking about? Because obviously unemployment is relatively low and there has been a bit of a growth in wages, not enough to compensate for the interest rate increases, of course, but there has been some... So are people with a job being affected, or is it mainly people who are either can't work or unable to work or on welfare?
Well, that phrase you used before, Chris, the working poor, is spot on. So we're seeing people that are working but simply can't make ends meet. And we were seeing that before this economic crisis, where something out of the ordinary would come. So it might be an unexpected medical bill and people would struggle to make ends meet. But now we're seeing people struggling to make ends meet just with everyday expenses. They simply cannot do it. And that's where the crisis is hit. Chris, I think, look, economic shock happens on a fairly regular basis right around the world. And what we require is governments to stop talking and actually start to take action. We hear a lot of investment being talked about around housing so that hopefully the cost of rental properties, the cost of owning a house will come down. But the reality is that it seems to be just talk. Yeah. And we're not getting enough traction around actually creating things. Embroidery ruins the garment. I know that. I understand that a whole lot of red tape can slow down the construction of houses. I understand all of that. But we need action because people are really suffering at the moment.
Well, you're spot on, Brendan, and that's where governments can act. They can get rid of the red tape. That's not an excuse. It's their job to get rid of that, so you can act quickly. Thanks so much for joining us, and thank you and the Salvos for all the work you do.